It's a Saturday and Sunday sports algorithm podcast. I'm getting questions and people are begging to send me money. And anytime people are begging to send me money, I'm going to answer your question. So, first of all, let's go over what we're going to talk about in this podcast today. There's a football weekend happening tomorrow and today. The NFL tomorrow. We'll go over this after we do some other things in this video. We'll answer the question about Detroit, which because of injuries is apparently not a great survivor pool pick. They're all the way down here. Survivor pool pick Miami. If you have anything available, man, that sounds scary. Arizona at Cincinnati. This also kind of sounds scary. The Jets. The Ravens sound a little better. But I mean, I'm giving you one every week, and the answer is Miami this week. That's all I can tell you. All right. So there you go. We'll talk about the rest of football. And the answer to the person who asked about Detroit was no, it's not good enough to be a survivor pool pick this week. And maybe it's because of injuries. We'll figure it out by looking at that later. Let's talk about hockey. What? Yes, hockey. Hockey season starts next week. Starts like 4 days or something, I think, on 10th maybe. And then teams really start playing, and toward the end of next week is when everyone will get a game in. There, of course, is a hockey algorithm. I mean, hockey is the sport I play and the sport I would say I'm the biggest fan of hockey. I know generally the most about that, and football, really. I think a lot of people are football fans, and there's only so many games in a football season, so you can pay more attention to them, of course, on the weekend. But hockey is a sport that I'm really into. Unfortunately, the algorithm, while it's okay, is not anything special. And I can't ever point to the algorithm and tell you that when it comes to picking hockey games, that there's a strong logic of profitability. It's really tough. You got to look at a lot of things, and there's always bounces in hockey, and there's fewer goals scored in a sport like hockey than baskets in basketball or points in football. And I always say that sports that have fewer points or goals in their totals are harder to predict. It's just what I think mathematically that makes sense also, because if you have a lot of scoring attempts, the team that can score more has a better chance, and it's easier to predict. So anyway, point is, hockey is coming. I will put something up, but it's not going to be ready at least until after a week into the season, because we have to start with whatever the rosters are going to be this year. This is last year's that you're looking at. It's all last year's, and I am not spending hours and hours and hours getting every roster right when all we have to do is wait for these teams to play a game or two, and the roster is going to self-fill it in here. The other thing about this file and this algorithm is it has a lot of automated sheets that are under data connections to RotoWire, meaning you just press refresh. We go into data and refresh all, and you'll see that these things are going to be connected and refreshed. So this algorithm is a lot easier to update. It does have some manual elements, but it's easier in general. So I'll put that up. I'm not sure what price, and I need to give it to you for like a week or two so that any of the weird things you have to do and edit can kind of be fixed up. But it's not ready yet. So give me until, let's call it like the 17th or 18th, about a week. And they'll get some games in here, and I'll be able to give you some answers on what these projections actually are. So for all those who are asking about hockey and care, you're going to get a whole lot of discussion about hockey and how to update the hockey algorithm yourself, because this is one, like I said, it's pretty easy to update. But it needs work. That's the problem, is you need my work on it. And so I don't know how much I am going to be putting effort into it. So I'm just not sure how I'm going to price that and how I'm going to distribute updated copies of this file. So I just want to let you know it's on the radar, and expect it in like about a week or so to be available, probably for like $100 or something. Not too bad, but we'll talk about that later. College football. We're having a junky day today so far on Saturday. It's 13 and 14. Our away teams especially are getting demolished. They're not even covering. 6 and 8 on your away teams. Most of these should be underdogs. A lot of them should be underdogs. They are not having it. Home teams are at least 7 and 4, and you have your losses at the bottom. But none of these teams are covering, and this is just a brutal day. And I made some wagers on them, and I've lost most of my wagers on college football today, which is going to happen sometimes. Why is it having such a bad week? Well, I don't know. and it's a new one, and I would really need to dig in game by game. And as you can see, we've got so many other things to worry about that's the reason why I stopped offering a subscription to this. But I'm sure what's going to happen is I'm going to get annoyed and I'm going to watch more college football the rest of the day today. And I'm going to look into these games and see if there's anything we can find here. I know some of these were close. We lost a lot of close ones, but it's still, this is awful. This is awful, right? Compared to, for example, how did the odds makers do? More sort options. Let's do this descending by or ascending by money line. And then the filter that we're going to use here is, I just want to look at the top. Odds makers. Odds makers had favorites to here and lost these at the bottom. But we had all these underdogs. This is essentially all these games that lost, these 10 of 13, that is the algorithm getting beat by the odds makers 10 out of 13 times. That is unacceptable. And other than that's a win right here with this minus 17. No, everything about this is awful. Not a lot of these. I mean, half the teams are covering. This is awful. This is random noise. This is saying that the college football algorithm did so bad today that it's not good. So, man, it requires me to do some work. I will get annoyed and I will work with it, but understand that I only have so many hours in the day. And I can only focus on so many sports. And I got fed up with college football years ago. I'm not fed up with it, but I definitely want to understand why this was so bad and retroactively change some formulas to make that better. All right, that's my blabbing about college football. As you can tell, I shouldn't be promising you wins in college football because we really still don't know yet. It's still in its infancy. Things that we do know more about are NFL because we pay attention. So if you stuck with me here, let's talk NFL. Well, I updated the injury report just now, and also have been watching NFL this season. We're now in week 5. We had a decent week last week at I believe 12-4 last week. Well, what's going to happen here? Miami, obvious. Giants stink. Miami, good. They're probably going to win. They're a terrible line. So survivor pool pick. What else do you do at this game? Do you do Miami to score points? We have this going over because we have Miami getting like 38 points here. I've changed the magnifier around. There's a lot of talk about it here, but I'll try to make it just understandable. So Miami to win and maybe Miami points, but we're talking about picking winners here. Arizona over the Bengals, 31-15. I just have to dig into that score real quick and understand why that is. So I'm going to go into the cube real quick, and I'm going to look at that game. And I want to see, for example, Cincinnati is right here in week 5 against Arizona. I want to see what their defensive injury percentage is. Yep, that's what I thought. Their defensive injury is 26%. And Arizona's is only 8. That means that some of this scoring and this 31 points that Arizona is supposed to put up is related to this thing, the D factor. You can change this thing around. And I used to put it at 0.2. Let's put it back at 0.2. Man, I don't know. All right, well, we're messing around with stuff, but I'm trying to figure out what it's doing to the scores, because see how I think it should really be right here. 31. I think Arizona's score goes from 31-15 now to 29-14, because now we have a better representation of the injuries of the defenders, which is located here, meaning you can see that more people have C scores. Earlier in the season, players that had sacks and defensive fumble recoveries and interceptions and stuff were very minimal in the first week or two because there's only 1 or 2 games. Now we've got a more even distribution where almost everybody on the defense has some type of C score. That means that we have a better idea when some people are injured, whether or not they're an impactful player or not. And you raise this D factor number when we have more full defensive stats. So it was sitting at 0.1 and it needs to go to 0.2, and that slightly changes scores. And this is why the NFL algorithm is so much better than the college football algorithm. Do you know what I don't have in the college football algorithm? A magnifier. You know what I don't have? A Proj pivot sheet. I have a player pivot, but it's not as good and it doesn't do what it's supposed to do like the NFL one because there's 6,000 college football players. And I'm like, come on, guys. Like somebody's got to pay me serious money to do college football to have me spend the time on it. I just don't have time to do all that. So I'm just not going to worry about it. But in football, football is just the National Football League. These are professionals. This is worth watching. And there's just enough football that you can pay attention to it. So now that we've made that specific change here, this game is a little bit closer, but the distribution is still the same, saying Arizona by 2 touchdowns. Why is that? Who on Arizona is going to do that? And who on Cincinnati is injured, perhaps? Arizona. Oh, let's just click teams for a second. Arizona and Cincinnati. Just want to make sure that the algorithm is doing this right. Cincinnati has such a low scoring rating. T. Higgins is questionable also. Oh. And here you've got just a low scoring running back question on Arizona. Arizona, right, for what you would say is kind of an upset. If it's not really an upset, Cincinnati has been brutal this year. And unlike the Bears against Washington, Arizona has more offensive potential. I feel like their offensive line is actually better. So, and they're in Arizona, whether that matters. Well, the algorithm says it does. So, man, am I telling you that if you ran out of Miami already, do you take Arizona as the second survivor pool pick of the day? The algorithm says yes. 35% win score percentage. Unbelievable. As an underdog. I just updated lines too. So that's the algorithm taking a stance on Arizona. I can't find any reason to think that it is not correct at all. So or that it's not incorrect. I think it's fine. So wow, Arizona, top underdog of the day. Ravens over the Steelers. Let's just check the Ravens injury situation, because when we do that, we can see if there's any chance that Baltimore or Pittsburgh have Pittsburgh any injuries. So they got Ravens scoring more. Lamar playing. Justice Hill, questionable, and ODB is questionable. They had no problem doing it against Cleveland last week. But as you can see, Justice Hill, what is this questionable with? I don't know what his injury is, but I don't know. That's not too bad, but that might restrict their scoring of their run game a little bit, but you've got Lamar still. Here you've got Kenny Pickett at 0.42. Nobody hurt, but also nobody playing all that well with Pittsburgh. They only beat Cleveland reasonable, and Cleveland is shown to be not much of a team, especially without Deshaun Watson. So Baltimore probably wins here, and I think the Baltimore pick it seems more reliable than an Arizona pick, and by win score it is. So if you have a second pick and you can't use Miami, it's either Baltimore or Arizona, but Baltimore, you probably can't really go wrong there. And it's more in line with the odds makers. So this probably wins more than Arizona beats Cincinnati here. This is in Pittsburgh though, and Arizona. So both of them are real close. Next, Jets. Algorithm, once again, popping an underdog, says Denver gives up a ton of points. Denver does give up a ton of points. Let's look at both of those teams. Jets and Denver. Does have even the does have Denver scoring more, yes, because they've been in so many high-scoring games. Javonte Williams is questionable. Russell Wilson playing. Marvin Mims is apparently who he's been using. He's been getting a lot of points. And here you've got a lower rated Zach Wilson. That's what worries you about taking the Jets here, is you're going against Russell Wilson. He's still Russell Wilson. The money continues to be with Denver at thinking that Russell Wilson is the Russell Wilson of old. I'm unable to tell, but there's something clearly wrong with the defense on Denver that they are allowing so many points. Well, you don't allow 70 on a team if you don't have defensive problems, like clearly. Forget that we got Tyreek Hill running around your team. It's still letting up a ton of points. So the Jets obviously are supposed to score more than they normally would, even though this is in Denver. It says 51 says they go way over. This over is the play here, along with the Jets. But yeah, come on. With the Jets, yeah, with the Jets playing in Denver and Denver's bad defense, this game really should go over 43. You got to bring the magnifier down to like a 3 to have that game go under 43. So now 3.5 maybe. We'll go back to 4.5 though, because I like what 4.5 is doing. All right, so the over in that game, and then the Jets if you're playing the winner, because it gives them an 11 point, like a touchdown and a field goal margin of victory. Dallas is at home. No, San Francisco is at home against Dallas. Says San Francisco wins this game 23-13. Feels like it'd be more points in this game. But San Francisco defense going to shut the door on Dallas in San Fran. So it says they cover, but obviously we talk about winners here more. So I don't think a lot of people are going to be taking San Francisco as their survivor pool pick this week. We already used them, so we can't anyway. But people are probably scared a little bit of Dallas. This should be a very good game. I think it's going to be interesting. But we'll see really how strong San Francisco is, and they probably win that game. And they're on a winner's round robin. I have no problem taking all of these teams. Luckily avoided Washington. I'm also willing to take the Chiefs. 6-point margin victory. I'm cutting it off right around here. These games are the games that are too close to call, according to the algorithm. They go either way. And with these last 6 games, you're going to probably average out 3-3 in the long run on those. It doesn't really think that it knows. So keep that in mind. There are a couple underdogs down here, but they're not really games that are great for picking winners. So in terms of what the round robin I'm going to do is I'm going to take, Miami's got to cover 2 touchdowns. Jeez. I think I'm going to take Miami's team points. Over under is only 47. The way Miami ran up 70 last time, they absolutely are they'll probably put up all those 47 themselves and get to 48 the way things are going. So I'll take the over in this game, just on the fact that Miami should put up those points enough by themselves. Then the defense eventually doesn't care and allows the Giants to get a touchdown or 10 points or something. So you see this game end up being like 46-10 or something like that. And they get there. Like, yeah, 34-16, but it's a Miami game at home. So you have to up the magnifier. And when you up the magnifier, you get this 42-19, right? Something more like 45-20, something like that makes a lot more sense. Right? Anyway. So I'm taking the over in that game. And then I'm taking these other guys to win, because the algorithm's supposed to pick teams to win. These 6. So I'll put those on a round robin, throw $100 and spread it around. And you know that these lines are actually not awful. You got 2 underdogs in here. You've got a -180 is not terrible for San Francisco. -180, not terrible for the Chiefs. -240, -200. These are not awful lines, actually, for a football game. So those 7 picks, $100, spread that out on a round robin evenly. A round robin where you make every single parlay pick with 7 teams ends up being 120 unique parlay combinations. So I'll put $1 down on each one of those combinations, which is a $120 wager. And that will pay, if you hit all 7, that will pay probably, with those 2 underdogs in there, that'll pay probably like $1,700, $1,800, something like that. Maybe almost 2,000. I'll have to find out. I'll let you know when I actually make that wager, but I am going to do exactly what I said, which is an over in this game, and Arizona to win, Baltimore to win, the Jets to win, the Niners to win, the Bills to win, the Chiefs to win, and spread that over the 120 combinations. That will most likely win money. That has a greater than 50% chance of making money. I'd say that has probably based on the way the NFL algorithm is, over-unders can always go either way. So you're really supposed to take Miami to win at -750 is the other thing you can do there, but it really reduces your payout. And I think they're going to score a ton of points. So I'm just going to do something that pays better. But that's what I'm doing on Sunday, guys. So I figured I'd do the video for everybody, answer questions, let everybody know what's going on with hockey, which is a week away, and complain about how bad college football has done today. Oh, that's terrible. This is awful. I mean, look what a good week is supposed to look like is this. See, remember what last week was? Something like this. It wasn't exactly like this, but it was really close. It wasn't 46-10. I think it lost 17 games, but it had a string like that. This didn't change all that much from the original formulas. This is just, look at this down here. We lost. Oh my gosh. We lost 9 out of the last 11 games. Oh gosh. Then another 4, 13 of 17 or something. I don't know. That is just awful. Awful. And it started with Friday night with Kansas State. They were minus 425 and they go down. Day of upsets, but the away teams especially. 5-10 on away teams, folks. Them only going 6-8 on the spread. Crap. Like, this makes me want to tear this apart tonight. Now that I did the NFL video essentially through this podcast today, I am going to dig into this and figure out why this did so badly. Like, what? It's not over yet. We still have these games going on right now. For those of you who are still watching this video, we still have these going on right now. And we'll see if this is better, because I have a pick that's related to just these games going on. So we'll see if it's any better, but I would not think it's going to be better the way it's been going today. So we'll see. Anyway, good luck, everyone. As for NFL tomorrow, go with those big 7. I'm not guaranteeing it's making money, because no one can guarantee anything in sports betting. But I will say that I'll be very surprised if a equally distributed 120 parlay round robin does not make money with these teams tomorrow. All right. So good luck. May all your picks be winning.